Welcome to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. Today we have CODY BARTON with us. His story is pretty amazing. He's been an entrepreneur since the young age of 17. You became a six-figure earner when you were 18 and started to speak in a mass of 10,000 people.
Yeah.
So that's a very, very quick start. I have very different problems when I was 18. It wasn't near that, but thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here.
So
have some fun.
Let's kick it off with that. I mean, that's a super interesting story. Like, I can't wait to find out more.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of weird because growing up, the first work that I kind of had to do, my dad owns a carpet and tile cleaning business, and so every summer when I was like 9, 10, up until I was probably about 13 years old, my dad would take me to work with him. He's like, this is how you make money. You have to work. Like, you don't get money just given to you. You have to actually go and work. And so he kind of taught me work ethic. And so, actually having some money when I was younger, I was like, this is actually nice. So I always wanted to continue working. So I would always find weird little side hustles on like how I can make money in high school. And then eventually found, I was working at McDonald's, and I was working as a sign spinner. So literally the guys that are like spinning signs.
Seriously?
Yeah, when I was 16, 17. And then my sister introduced me to network marketing, and I was like, I can make money. I like watched a couple of videos. I'm like, I can make money with this. I'm down. I'm in. So then I got started, and just every day I was just excited and consistent and just plugged away. And, it was honestly kind of crazy. Within, a year, had a couple thousand people on my team all over the world. And it was like, wow, like money is coming in more than, I ever thought I would even make. I thought, like 60 grand a year back when I was in high school was what I was destined to make. And then my life changed, honestly, from that point.
Man, that's crazy. So you're introduced to network marketing at 17, and then you crush it for a year.
Mm-hmm.
I know that you spoke to a crowd of 10,000 people, and you've had some the access to some amazing mentors throughout that very early on.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go from not knowing anything and just doing kind of like side hustles to six figures and then keynoting it?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing was I was hungry. Like, I was excited. I was like, I wanted like the cool cars. I wanted to have freedom. I wanted to live in a cool place. Like, I just wanted all, at the first it was the material things. It was those were the driving, factors. I met a guy that was 25 and was driving a Rolls Royce, and I was just like, my mind was blown. I was like, I didn't even know that was possible. I thought you had to be like an NFL athlete, or, I'm not going to be an athlete. I'm 150 pounds. I was like, that's not in my cards. Or I'm not going to be a, famous rapper. So I just didn't know that was even an option, really. So, seeing that, it just kind of opened my mind of like what's actually possible. Where you kind of get put in a box when you're in high school. Going through school, it's like, go to school, get good grades, you graduate. Go to college. If you don't have money for it, borrow it because they'll give it to you.
Right.
Graduate, get a job, work for 40 years, retire off 40% of your income. That wasn't even enough to support you all. You were in your working years. Go to Europe once, watch TV for 10 years, die. Like, that's the plan. That's the plan.
It's a pretty solid life strategy for most people.
That's what most people do. And I was like, I didn't want to do that. So I was just like, I want something different. Like, even if I fail, I'll know that I went for everything that I really wanted in life,
So was that something right out of the gate? I mean, did you know that when you were in high school, or is that something that kind of came across, or that perspective came across later down the road when you started meeting different people?
Honestly, it was in high school because I just felt different. So I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 15, and it just, it goes into the quadrants of, investor versus business owner versus self-employed versus employee. And from that, I was like, I have to be a business owner. I need to be an investor. So I was like, to get to be an investor, I need to be a business owner so I have money to invest. And so, then in high school, I was, doing different things to make money. And I was like, I know I can't work a job. So I have to find, other options because I, learned like profits are better than wages. So I'm like, I have to figure out a way to profit because your wage is going to be tied to an hour that you have to put in. And a profit, there's a cap on it. And so I've really struggled in high school because I knew I didn't want to be there. I wasn't learning what I wanted to be learning, so that, Rich Dad Poor Dad, took me down a rabbit hole of, then I got Zig Ziglar audiobooks and I was listening to those, and, I just started going down this path of personal development and reading books and, listening to YouTube videos of, young people that were successful, and I was like, that's going to be me. I got to figure out how to do it. And you're in that box. I remember taking like an aptitude test in my senior year, and it's like, what profession are you most likely to go into? And I just like selected no on everything. I'm not working any job. I'm just gonna do my own thing. And it was this whole argument with my teacher. She's like, that's not part of the class. You have to choose something. I'm like, I'm gonna be my own boss. And she's like, you're crazy.
Watch me.
So yeah, I felt like a black sheep in school, really.
Man, that's amazing that you were able to see that like from that young age, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that having somebody come in and teach you work ethic had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But also, who told you to read that book, the Rich Dad Poor Dad book? I mean, because that's kind of like the gateway drug.
The gateway drug.
Personal development.
Yeah.
Once you go, beyond those doors, like. You're a goner, man. Like, it's hard to lolook back.
Yeah. So it was actually my parents, because my dad had owned his own business, and so they had some books in their office, and I was just kind of like, poking through them, and I had heard of Robert Kiyosaki and Darren Hardy. So I'd heard of Darren Hardy was someone that Robert had done an interview with, and so I had seen Darren Hardy, and that by 25 he had a multi-million-dollar company, and I was like, that's who I want to hear from. So I saw Darren and Robert together, and then I saw a book in my parents' office that had Robert Kiyosaki's name on it, and I was like, I want to read that.
Yeah.
So my dad encouraged me, and thankfully, he encouraged me to follow the entrepreneurial, journey. It was kind of like my mom wanted me to be safe and secure, and I was, going down this path of like uncertainty. But my dad was like, my dad really believed in me, and that's what he had done too, and so it was. He helped kind of like push me in that direction and supported me, so that was super. I think that was a big part of it, because like teachers weren't supporting me, and it was like my parents saying that yes, I can do that and I could be an entrepreneur, and then at school it was that's dumb, that's too that's outside the box, that's not what you should be doing, you don't pay attention in class, you're reading I'm like in class, instead of paying attention, I'm reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm reading the cash flow quadrant, because I'm like, this is actually relevant information.
Stuff I can use.
Yes, yeah. I'm like, the Pythagorean theorem. I'm like, when am I going to use that? Ever,
Yeah. No, I completely agree, man. And it's not that formal education it's a bad thing. It does teach us to operate within a certain parameter, right? Yeah. And I think we all need that. Not everybody
foundation.
thinks. Yeah,
you need
there's
a foundation.
Teaches you to begin something and finish something.
Yes, definitely.
And it really forces you to begin something and finish something.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people have that spark. I want to do shit on my own, and I want to figure it out, and I believe in myself, and I trust myself and my abilities. I know I didn't have it back when I was in high school. I didn't know what entrepreneurship was.
Yeah.
But once you open your eyes, whether it be through a book, a connection with somebody else, a conversation, the whole world opens up.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty amazing. So you went from you kicked it into this new company, got into it, became a six-figure earner in a year, and then how did you prep yourself through that period? Because you're basically coming in from the cold. All and I'm assuming all at that point is theory.
Yes. Yeah.
And then how do you actually make it into something that's tangible and profit from it?
Yeah, so I think the thing is I just had unwavering faith. Like, I just believed, like, I knew that it was going to work. And, I think it's part of, like, the law of attraction where, you put your attention, your energy flows, and, things start to happen. Because certain things would happen, and I'm like, I don't know that, like, weird things would happen. Like, things that blew up my business were, I had gotten somebody involved in the company that had their friend that was an exchange student from Norway. We happened to do a Skype call with one of their family members in Norway, and then all of a sudden I have 900 people in Norway within like 4 months. And so it's like these weird things that it's not, there wasn't a, I did this, this, and this, and that caused X result. It was, I really think, I believe, I have a lot of faith in God, and that, when whatever energy you're putting out, you're going to attract that energy back, So I think that's the biggest thing was, I knew that it was going to work, and I was consistent. I had the unwavering faith, and, just continuously took action. Before we started, we were talking about just, being consistent. I think that's one of the biggest things. Yeah,
you were saying how it's actually one of the things that you're really, really good at, being consistent. You mentioned not necessarily having all the skills in all the areas, but that one, the one skill, which is consistency.
Yeah.
And I call it a skill because it's something you have to get better at it if you're not.
Yes. Yeah.
And I mean, you're saying how that kind of really led to everything else.
Yeah, and because it's kind of hard to kind of even know where that came from. I just knew if I just get a little bit better every day, if I talk to a few people, the compound effect. That was the second book I read because I got excited about Darren Hardy.
Yeah.
So, Robert Kiyosaki, and then it led me to that, and I'm like, wow, like if I am just, if I talk to a couple people every day, I don't need to talk to 100 people every day, like in that particular business. I don't need to do that every day. But if I talk to a couple, I'm doing meetings consistently, I'm doing trainings consistently, I'm taking action on a consistent basis. Where I saw a lot of people would fail is they would, and I see this now within the real estate business or in any other business. People get excited, but they don't stay excited. They're excited for a week. They're like, I'm going to cold call, I'm going to knock doors, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And then they do it for a week and they go all out, massive action. And then, it doesn't happen in a week because it takes time. It's like you got to build the pipeline. You have to, you have to keep digging. It's like, the story of the acres of diamonds. So right? I have the general story. I'm not, a great storyteller, but in general, the story of the acres of diamonds is there was a man that lived on, I believe it was a farm, and so he was told a story of, there's all these diamonds within the land, and someone told him that, you can go and find these diamonds. So he sells everything he owns. He sells his farm, he sells his property and goes on like a quest to go find these diamonds. So he's like searching, and over the years he doesn't find anything, and he spent all of his money and his resources. It's a sad story how it ends, where he actually ends up killing himself because he went after trying to find this, acres of diamonds somewhere else than where he was just living. And the story is, underneath the land he was living on, they found the biggest diamond mine ever. So it's people, they don't understand that, and how I kind of take that story is, if they just understand that inside themselves they have that the acres of diamonds is wherever you are. It's not some opportunity. It's not, like real estate is just the vehicle that we use to, that's our our vehicle to get to where we want to go. But it's really the person you are, because you, Rafael, you're going to be successful wherever you are, whether you're doing real estate, whether you decide to start another company, or whether you decide to, whatever challenge you decide to take on, you're going to be successful because that's the type of person you are. And so I think with myself, as I focused more on, working harder on myself than I do on my craft, because I get better at my craft by being a better me. So I think that's where some people, they get confused, and they take action and they're not figuring out how to get better themselves. They're just taking action, and then they get discouraged because nothing happens, and then they take a week off, and it's just this inconsistency, so they're not able to ever get any traction going.
That makes perfect sense. I also read The Compound Effect, and it really like changed the whole way I approach things. So I've been known in the past for just going balls to walls on things and making things work and really going heavy into something that it's a brand new idea.
Yeah.
And yeah, sure enough, a few days, weeks. I've never dropped a project or something that I believe in. I pivoted in the past, but you do get tired. You do get to like, oh man, I need a couple of days off from this. And then you do. I mean, I've had that level of inconsistency in operating. And when I started just doing I apply the compound effect to everything I do, like eating, fitness, and all. I don't need to be in the gym 3 hours a day if I do it every day for 30 minutes. And so take that same principle in prospecting and just kind of building things out. And I think it really takes you, after a period of time, it takes you to that next level. I love what you said about just everything really branching out from you, from within, and having that faith in you. It's also I think one of the hardest things to not only understand as a concept, but adopt.
It's something that you don't see an actual result. Like, you don't see a physical result. Like, you cut your hair, it's like your hair was cut, there was a change. But like, people don't see, they spend so much more on the outside, but they're not putting inside. So the inside is where you actually feel better and get better, where the outside, it's like you're feeling better about yourself temporarily, but where the actual results come is from that work inside. And one of the things, Darren Hardy spoke at a conference that I was at, this is probably like 6-7 years ago at this point, and one of the things that he talked about was, what's really the difference between the people that are at the higher levels, like someone that makes 50 grand a year or 100 grand a year or 50 grand a month or 100 grand a month. It's like, what is really the difference when we have those same 24 hours in a day to, take actions? And, a lot of people have similar resources but end up at different, earning levels. And one of the things that he talked about is, really what we have to do is in our subconscious mind, we have a thermostat. It's, in a house, you have a thermostat. If it's set for 80 degrees and you open up all the windows in the house and it's 120 in the summer in Arizona, the temperature is going to rise. It's going to go up to 85, 90, 95 degrees. So the way that Darren was explaining that was, take that as people that become new to money. Their subconscious mind is used to making 50 grand a year. But then give that person, raising that the temperature temporarily goes up, the windows are open, money is flooding in, they make, 500 grand, or they win the lottery, like a lot of lottery winners, or a lot of professional athletes. They're in their, they're very young, they don't have a lot of personal development as far as, for managing and handling and being a good steward of money. And what happens is the window's shut, the money stops coming in. Their subconscious mind is, I make 50 grand a year, I make 50 grand a year, I'm gonna make bad decisions to remove all of this excess money that's coming into my life so I can go back down to my 80-degree thermostat. So it's doing the personal development, it's like, implanting into your subconscious that I can actually earn 100 grand a year, or 150 grand, or 500 grand, or $1 million, and it becomes the same feeling of making $1 million versus making 100 grand, where someone's like, that's a lot of money, but it all becomes relative to what your actual belief system is.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I had trouble with, was I went from making no money to making over 100 grand a year, and I would just spend all of it because I was like, I don't even know what to do. I have no idea what I'm doing. And honestly, it was like a scary thing because it's like, I don't know what to do with it.
You have water flowing, but the faucet was open on the other end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I can relate, man. I come from a background too where $60,000 a year is it was the norm as I was growing up, and I was making that when I was working at the firehouse.
Yeah.
And I mean, really getting out of that shell, it takes. I mean, it's an internal battle, man, to a point.
Yeah.
So how have you gone about it? I mean, what did you do to raise your financial thermostat?
I think the biggest thing is getting around other people, because what becomes normal for you is what your environment's like. Like, if in your environment you're hanging out with people that are making 30, 40 grand a year, and there's nothing wrong with making less money. Like, there's literally, like, if people are happy, great, perfect. Exactly. That's it. That's what really matters, is that people are happy. But I think it's where people are making 30, 40 grand a year, and if you're hanging out with only people making 30, 40 grand a year, and you're trying to make 100 grand, or you're trying to make 200 or more, you're going to be influenced by that environment. their thought patterns are going to become your thought patterns because you become a product of the environment that you're around most. You know, it's that saying of like you become the, the likeness of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So what I did was I changed my environment. When I was 17, everyone I was hanging out with was from 25 to 50. And, they were making 6 figures and they were making 7 figures and they were buying investment properties. They were investing their money and they were, doing things were normal. It was normal to be driving an exotic car. It was normal to have 25 rental properties. Those things were normal. So by being around that, it allowed me to be like, oh, that's natural. That's normal for me too. And that's what my life should be like because this is how my environment is.
So almost rather than a goal, it kind of, switched into an expectation then.
Yeah. It's just like, this is normal. Like, this is what my life is supposed to be. Like, money comes easily and frequently. That's how my friend group is. That's how my life should be. And I think people have a hard time, like, getting connected into groups like that because I think people have a hard time letting go of some of those past friends or, family members even that kind of like hold them down and, keep them in that, mindset.
Right. I mean, I think the way that I see it, I think there's we all have different necessities, right? We have emotional necessities, financial necessities, goals and achievement and all that. And I do agree with you in what you're saying about, all right, cool, if my goals and my, the achievements I wanna make are this, then they should be supported by call it a support group or whatever.
Yeah.
But there's gotta be people who will connect with that with that emotion. On the other hand, as far as emotional value and in connection, I have a lot of friends who are really, really good at one of the things that I want to I want to connect to.
Yeah.
But I can't connect at a personal, loving and caring level. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think that's kind of like where the people around us, it's come into play, and it's in. Like, I don't see it. What I'm trying to say is that you don't necessarily put up a wall, people that don't. Like, all right, you're not making $100,000 a year. I'm not talking to you anymore.
Definitely.
It's not.
It's like it's just an awareness. It's like just careful what your your environment is.
Exactly.
You just have to keep an eye out because people are gonna. They're gonna put negative things can go in your head, but on the thing outside of just the financial side is it's important to have those people that you can go to for other areas. Like I have spiritual mentors; they're not making millions of dollars, but that's who I go to for my spiritual mentorship because that's who can help me get better in that area. Or if you have if you're trying to improve your fitness, it's like you go towards that person that maybe they're not financially doing well, but they're crushing it at the gym. They know the diet, they know the nutrition, they know the regimen, and they can help you. So it's more about just, I think, being aware of your environment and aware of if you want to excel in different areas, like going and finding those people that are going to help you excel in whatever area you're trying to, feel better in. Or if it's just, hanging out with friends and you're just trying to, relax and have a good time. It's like just understanding like what your environment is and what it's doing and what it's not doing for you.
Yeah, and not confuse it too. It's it's just the way that wherever I feel like I'm weak at, I'm gonna try and find support in that area.
Yeah.
So no, it makes perfect sense. I love it, man. Well, you also mentioned, and this was off of a recording. We weren't we weren't taping yet.
Yeah.
do we tape? But it's you talked about the people that you were talking to during that first year when really kind of your mindset opened up.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Honestly, my mind was just constantly it was a constant, continuous, my mind was just exploding constantly with just I was like, I didn't even know this was possible. I met a guy, he's actually a friend of mine, a really good friend of mine now because I've known him since, 2011, which is crazy. But he was 25 years old. He was making, $40,000 a month. And, I was like, that's how much people make in a year. He has a Rolls Royce. I'm like, this is insane. Like, how is this even possible? And, he was a normal guy. I think that's what really helped me with my belief. And, that was obviously that was network marketing, but it's just a belief system in general where, I saw that this guy was doing that, and he's young, and I'm like, wow, like, okay, I can be young and, you know, make good money. I can be young and do, you know, do really well. And so then I just was like, okay, there has to be other people like him. So, you know, started finding other people, and then, you know, some older people as well in the company that were doing well. And I was like, okay, this is amazing. Because then I found people that were in their 40s and 50s, and I'm young, I'm 25 right now, and I recognize like it's extremely important that I don't know everything, and I have to seek the wisdom of people that are older than me, you know, people that are in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, that have had way more life experience, that have had, you know, been kicked in the teeth more than I have, which I have a lot. But, you know, that have that life experience and can, you know, give perspective. Like I love talking to older business people because they have such good perspectives. And, you know, one of my favorite things to ask people is like, okay, if you were me in my situation, like what would you be doing, or what would you be doing different? If you can go back to my age, what would you do different? And that's one of my favorite things to ask, because I'm like, I want the perspective. I have a high respect for people that have been in business for years, and and even not in business, but just in other areas of life, and that have wisdom to give. Because you're either in life, it's like, you know, it's like the two M's. You're either learning from mistakes or you're learning from mentors. And mentors are the shortcut to success in every area. So it's like, I'd rather ask for their help and not think that I know everything. I think that's the worst thing you can do, is think, you know, I notice when I think, you know, too highly of myself is when I'm about to fail, because I'm not allowing myself to grow and, you know, gain insight and perspective from other people.
I love it, man. It's really cool to see how you've really built a whole platform off of you know, coaches and mentors, and you've been opened up to that mentality from very early on. I mean, you can see the difference that it makes in somebody's life if you adopt something like that, you know, from a young age. So after this happened, what did you do afterwards? So like, what did you transition into?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest things is also recognizing, like, I'm definitely way different than the person I was at that time, because during that time, like, I was put on a pedestal in that company, and I was making great money, and I developed an ego, and I stopped learning. There was a period where I wasn't learning, and I just thought I was the shit. It was what, you know, I was just like, yeah, like, you know, my life's dope, you know. So, and it's like, it's healthy to have like a good confidence, but ego is, you know, going to be the death of you, because you think you know everything. And so
is that when the cars came in, the 4,000 square
yeah. So, you know, just overspending, you know, all the Louis Vuitton shoes, and, you know, just spent on a lot of that dumb stuff, and, you know, just thought I was, you know, the shit, you know. So then what happened was, my business started, you know, getting shaky, and eventually ended up falling apart. And so there was, you know, from 17 to about 21, 22 was my run in that company. So I had a great run, and things were great. And the last like year and a half, you know, my income in that company was every month started going down, but my lifestyle was very expensive. So I eventually lost everything. I had to sell my car for a big loss, wrote a check out of my savings just for the difference between what I owed and what I sold it for. Had to move out of the house I was living in, had to move back to my parents' house, and just totally just distraught of like, wow, like I have nothing to show for the last 4 years of the money that I made. And just that, you know, but that was the best thing that could have happened to me. During that time, if you ask me, I was depressed for 6 months. But the thing is, it was the best thing for me because it destroyed my ego. And it taught me, which, you know, I've taken now with the real estate business, is things are not always going to be the way they are. Like you could have problems, like financial, you know, things can happen to, you know, hurt you, and you don't know everything. You're not some genius. You know, I have a healthy confidence for myself, but I also have a healthy awareness now of, I don't know everything. It's, you know, money can be coming in one day, and then, you know, one day it could stop in some areas. So it's like important to have reserves, and, you know, so that pushed me down a path of learning about financial management, like knowing how to have a financial management system to save money, you know, save money for taxes, and to, you know, start doing those things and have proper planning, because I was just so ignorant to, you know, what I should have been doing with my money during that time. And so it was the worst thing that happened. Worse because it, you know, I was depressed, and I lost who I was for, you know, 6 months, and had to figure out who I was, what I was doing. I had my whole identity tied up in that business. So yeah.
Did that happen before or after you went heavy into the personal growth side of things? I mean, you mentioned doing professional growth and then looking at that side of things, but it sounds like you connected to yourself and you started looking at other things. For example, the law of attraction and that sort of thing. Was that before or after?
So it was.
Is it something that even played a part in it? Or
yeah. So
as far as you coming back, I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely in the coming back, because in the going into it, the first 2 years, I was so heavy on personal development. Then I thought I was smart, so I stopped doing as much personal development. And it's like you have to keep up on it, because it's it's just like anything. You have to, if you don't use it, you lose it. So it's like you have to continue developing to continue to be better. So that was the thing. So I didn't continue that, and so I think that was really the downfall for me. And then during that period of depression, I was reading books and I was just trying to figure it out. I'm like then I got my real estate license, and that started the real estate journey from that point.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I chuckled because something I thought just crossed my mind, and it's sometimes I feel so overwhelmed and so heavy, and my energy is off, and all that. And when I feel that heavy, I mean, I like, this is literally the thought that crosses my head. Like, I need Wayne Dyer today. So I'll start, I'll read a chapter on a Wayne Dyer book, because to me, like, he's one of the most connected authors and people who ever I've heard. Speak on. I've never heard the guy, but his content, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It puts me in a state where it's refreshing. It's kind of like a reset button for me. But I have, yeah, man, today's like a Wayne Dyer day. I mean, to me, that's a heavy day. It's something that's helping me come back. But it sounds like you had the awareness too. Like, you were, okay, cool. I learned a lot, connected a lot, and then I got smart.
It was a character building time.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
So, I mean, we all need that, man. I think everybody in the righteous entrepreneur journey has been through it multiple times for myself. I can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't seem to learn the first go.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm like, how do I reduce these negative things from happening? And I'm like, gosh, I'm like, sometimes I think, I'm like, Cody, what the hell were you thinking? What, like, you thought that was a good idea?
It seemed right at the moment.
Yeah.
No, that's amazing, man. So you moved into real estate. You transitioned into real estate, and when did you do that? How old were you?
I was 20. It was like between 21 and 22. I was like 21 when I transitioned. I was like, I want to do investment real estate. I want to flip houses. I want to be a real estate investor. So what do? I get my real estate license.
Yeah,
I thought that's the path.
You start backwards.
Yeah. So my mom was a real estate agent, so I was like, okay, my mom's an agent. I'll be an agent, and then. I did that. I joined some masterminds. A couple guys that really helped me, like, building up that business was, Colton Lindsay. He has a really successful real estate, sales team up in Utah, and really, good with mindset and money management. And so kind of helped me, put a track together of, making that business successful, and made that successful, got back to, making six figures again. I was like, awesome. And then I realized I was like hating my life because it wasn't fulfilling for me. It wasn't hitting the areas that were making me happy. I was doing, it was making money, but it wasn't fulfilling. And so, I went through a few years of that, and I wholesaled a couple properties just because as an agent you come across stuff, right? And, I knew Keegley, I knew Josiah and Hunter and Jameel. So I was like, okay, bring those deals to those guys. And I had another mentor that, I brought my first flip to. And it's weird now because we actually, myself and Pace and our partners on our Subject 2 properties where we've been buying, the first house I ever flipped with my partner at that time, Frank, on that deal, we bought a house directly across the street from it. So I was over there and I was just like looking at the house and I'm like, man, that's weird. Just like being back over in that area. I'm like, man, like I remember like just hitting doors and, to create that. And so yeah, that was kind of the transition. And I was building like this real estate sales team. I was like, I'm going to, build a big real estate sales team and that's what I'm going to do. And I was hating my life and I'm like, I can't do this. So shut it all down. I was like, I'm just going to wholesale. And it was actually a longer story than that. I took a whole month off and just wanted to figure out what was actually going to make me happy, because I was just super unhappy. So I went and checked out all these different things. I was like, maybe I'll buy a franchise and, build that, or maybe I'll start some type of service business and build that and sell it, or maybe, so I looked at all these different things, and my heart was always like, I need to do investment real estate. I need to do investment real estate. So I was like, you know what, that's what I'm doing.
Something was pulling you that way.
Yeah. So then it just pulled me to that was what I focused all my energy on going forward.
So you're now you're partners with Pace, and we had him on the show, episode 5. The guy's a freaking machine.
Yeah.
And he speaks so highly of you. I mean, he says that you're the yin to his yang when it comes to balance and actually making the whole business work together. If anybody's read the book.
Rocket Fuel.
You have visionaries, and then you have integrators. So he's definitely a visionary.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and
100%.
100%. He's definitely a visionary. So sees the picture and drives it home and all that stuff. However, I think the magic is really in the granularities of the business, and it takes a really, really good integrator to make that stuff work.
Yeah.
What's so cool, and I think it's so special about you, is that you started your own hustle. I mean, you didn't, come in or with the idea of being an integrator. However, you turned out to be, so great about, as to just making things work and at such a high pace. No pun intended, pace. But it's it's really cool to see how kind of both worlds, collide and you make them happen.
Yeah.
So do you think that having that experience on the on doing stuff by yourself on your own, then crushing it, ups and downs, and rebuilding and figuring all that out has a lot to do with the way that you operate now?
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And I recognize, like, I look back to like other things, like the reason I was successful in other businesses, and I'm like, really, I didn't know I was an integrator. I was an integrator that didn't know it. I didn't know what integrator visionary thing was. Like I had friends that were great salespeople, but their follow through was, less than stellar, and their, organization of things and like the actual like putting the whole picture together wasn't all there. And I was always frustrated. I'm like, how are they gonna, get this done when everything's a mess? And so I'm like, I didn't recognize that they're just a visionary. That's just their personality, and that my personality is to be the integrator that helps put those pieces together. It's like the visionary just throws all the puzzle pieces on the table, and I'm like, all right, I gotta put these pieces together. And yeah, you put them all together, and or it's with a visionary, it's like, and I struggle with this as an integrator, where Pace comes up with so many great ideas. I'm much like, so many of these ideas are so good, and I'm like, I have to be the guy that has to try to shut down. I'm like, no, we can't do that idea. No, we can't start that right now. No, we can't do it. I'm like, I always have to say no, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's hard, it's hard to be that person too, is because I wanna push those things along, and it is definitely that relationship of the yin and the yang. Like, I have so much appreciation and respect, and like I love the guy, because he's such a huge part, of my life and business, and, in all areas, and, super supportive, and, understand, it's like a marriage too, though, where it's like, right, you have to figure out,
that's how he words it.
Yeah. And you have to figure out, each other's quirks and, hot buttons and things that are like, that's a no for me, or that's, this is where I want to go. And so it's like, you have to really understand each other and have a healthy respect of, like, if I say no, like, dude, we can't work on that idea right now. We don't have the manpower for that, so it's like, him respecting that and me for when I say no, because he understands I'm trying to do what's best for the company and best for moving the partnership forward. Keep that balance
and that momentum going.
Yeah. So, but then also, I appreciate so much about him is he always is trying to move the needle forward. So it's like, he's, trying to think of like the best way to explain it, where like he's just pushing forward, and just there's like havoc and all these things that are happening. I'm just trying to like all right, got to keep all these things together as we're moving forward, and it's but the thing is about it is there's so many things that I would have never done by myself, because he helps push the things forward, and then I'm just like, all right, I have to figure out just how to become more effective, and like, okay, like there's lots of things where I'm like, okay, like part of the job I think as an integrator is you have to play devil's advocate all the time. I'm
Yeah,
like, worst
absolutely.
case scenario, I'm like, yeah, it sounds great to have these different things happening, but really, like, we need to kick these things out. And, you know, I know that we want to have these things all done within this month, but the timeline on that's probably going to take like 4 to 6 months, you know? So, so it's like you have to play the, reality of like what, like, actually has to happen, like how long that puzzle is going to take to actually put together, and the helpers that you bring along to put the puzzle together. It's like someone's going to drop the puzzle pieces and you got to go clean up the mess, and so it's a really interesting relationship that's built over this last year, and I'm super appreciative. Like I literally can't think of a better partner, and I'm like, I just feel like it's, again, like the law of attraction. It's God bringing us together to work together, because it's what the fit's supposed to be. And it's honestly, like, I'm just like, every day, because you get in the hustle and the bustle of every day, but I'm like, this is insane. Like, it's amazing.
It feels like you live your life through a very, very cool kind of out of resistance type of vibe. And I'm not saying that on the day-to-day kind of stuff. Of course, there's got to be resistance and pushback on that stuff. But as far as the opportunities that come to you, I think that might be one of the reasons why, because you're so open to that kind of stuff. And I mean, honestly, yeah, you guys do make a really good team, because you keep that balance up. I mean, he's going super fast, super heavy all the time.
100 miles per hour all the time, yeah.
And it sounds like throughout your life, aside from that 6-month period, you've been keeping up your consistent pace. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, I think that's just a recipe for success, man. It's a blessing that you came across the concept of compounding, right out of the gate.
Yeah, and I think that thankfully that's been kind of my personality style of being that consistent person, because especially on getting all the integration stuff done, it takes a lot of time, and it's like you have to. It's like eating an elephant every day, so it's like taking a bite, trying to take a bite, a little bit at a time, and keep pushing it forward and keep pushing it forward, and yeah, really that 6-month period where I was just in a loss for what the heck I was doing anymore with my life was really that only period. And I feel like I don't know whether it's just something that I always had, but I feel like as long as I could remember, I've always wanted to work. I've always wanted to just figure out how to make things work better. Like, how do we make this more efficient? How do we make it better? How do we become better ourselves? Like, it's just always about how do we make it better all the time in my head.
Yeah, solving. I mean, at the end of the day, you're solving problems.
Yeah.
So what do you think you like best? Do you like best being on your own and crushing it on your own like you were doing before? Or do you enjoy just the environment that you have currently right now? And what I'm trying to do now, it's really pick your brain as an integrator. Because you're both. You're obviously both. I mean, we all have a degree of both, I think. Yeah. But you've done it, by yourself. Setting your own goals, your own standards, and then crushing it your own way. What do you think calls to you the most?
Partnership, for sure. I just didn't know. It's like a thing. It's like, I didn't know what I didn't know. I was like unconsciously incompetent on the fact of just knowing. Like, I just didn't know I didn't even know it was even something that was a possibility of having, a partnership. And I think the thing is, like Pace says this all the time, like, our partnership shouldn't be 1 + 1 = 2. It's like 1 + 1 should equal 10 because of, how we're able to work together. I think it's more challenging being in a partnership because I want to make sure that I'm doing my part. Like, the biggest fear that I have every day, not every day, but like the things that, I think about, I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm doing enough. I want to make sure that I'm providing enough value. I want to make sure I don't ever want to be seen as someone that's like, oh, like, that guy doesn't even do that much. It's, just the other partner. It's just Pace that, does everything. So it's like, I don't ever want that. I don't ever want that for myself. Like, I just want to make sure that I'm always contributing and I'm providing value. Like, because I'm used to in my past, everything I did, I was always the one like over providing value. So it's almost intimidating sometimes where it's like Pace provides so much value and just pours out so much. I'm just like, I want to match that because that's important to me. Yeah, it's important to me. Just like in my like moral in my morals and compass of like just making sure that I'm providing value. Like I don't like people that are takers or try to just drag their feet and let the rest of let someone else make everything happen. So
Right.
that's extremely important to me, is making sure that I'm providing value, and it's not just in the partnership, but I just like to be the over provider of value in my in all my relationships. I'm like, how can I help you? Like, how can the people on our team, like, how can I help you get better? How can I help you get to your goals? Like, what can I do? Can I stay late? Like, what do you need from me? Like, how can I make this better for you so that this is a better experience? You're happier, you have more joy, like your life's better. Like that's kind of where my mindset's at. It's like, it's like the go-giver. Like I had mentors like Bob Proctor and another man, Tom Alcazan. Like they really pushed and instilled that. It's like you have to be a servant to people, and that's how you win in life, is being the best servant. And obviously take care of yourself, but by serving others, you're never going to outgive God and the blessings that are kind of come to you from from giving. So it's like that's just where my mindset is always at. And pace makes it a challenge of like, all right, I gotta keep going. So it's good though. Like I was working 7 days a week, 6-7 days a week before me and him were partners, and then now I'm just like, oh, this is great. Like I have someone I could talk to, late at night or early in the morning, or what. He's working on Saturday, dope. Like I'm excited to work on Saturday together. Yeah, no, and I love that, because I don't have a family right now, so that's not a big deal for me, and I know. He sacrifices a lot with, Laura, Asher, and Corbin, with the kids and all that. And I'm so appreciative of Laura and, the kids having the understanding of, that Pace is working a lot, and, he's doing it for the family. And, I really look up to him in that way too. I'm like, man, like that's hard to like find. Like I look up to his relationship with Laura, because I'm like, I would love to find, someone that could be that for me in my future, because that's just like, you need that support system at home. And so that's another thing that I look up to him on, is like, dude, like killed it with that. Great.
Well, it's also, I mean, empowering your motivation, per se, right? If you have somebody that supports you that way and then says, yeah, go out there and crush it, and and helps you, along the way, that's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm that I'm realizing right now is that, I mean, you don't only have that, that connection with Pace on a work level, but you've also developed that, personal relationship and admiration. And I think in terms of partnerships, it's because I've had partners before, and it's strictly business-wise, financial, and all that stuff. And then the second something breaks, everything just kind of starts tumbling down. But if you have, and I'm not saying you have to be best friends with your partner, but having just at least a degree of personal connection, understanding where they're operating from, I think goes a long way in the efforts that you want to put into it, and also like the benefits and the perspective that you get out of it. So, so I mean, you're like the secret weapon, dude. Like the stealth ninja that makes shit happen, and I mean, you have this one guy driving, the car and stepping on the gas. Yeah. And then you have this other dude just filling up the tank and making shit work and making sure the car doesn't break down. I mean,
dude, we need to change the tires. Tires are gonna blow
come
up.
Come on, bro. Like you're taking those, those turns too heavy. But it's I mean, it's almost magical. For lack of a better term, to see it all, happening and see the type of growth that you guys are having as a company. What would you recommend for somebody who's acting as an integrator? And I'm not sure we explained it, but give us an overview of what a visionary and what an integrator is.
So
I mean, that'd be a good start.
So the kind of the overview that I see was like with the visionary, it's more like the visionary is usually doing the sales. They're painting the vision. They see the future before it happens. Is like a very high visionary type tendency. They're seeing the future and how things are going to link together. They're very good at relationships and they're good at understanding. They have typically what I've seen is very high emotional intelligence. Like Pace is extremely good at that. Where for me sometimes I'm kind of like, no, like I don't want to talk to that person, but he's like, well, these are the reasons why we do these things, and I'm like, okay, like I can appreciate that, so great. So, but So the visionary, sales, painting the vision for the future, typically more focused on big picture than on the little details and making sure things are happening. And that's, kind of I'd say like the few of the key points. And then like on the integrator side, it's where like the rubber meets the road. I feel like the visionary is like the car is ready, like I am ready to drive the car, and I'm like, all right, like let's lay the foundation to be able to drive that car. Let's get it's you have the vision of where we're going. We need to turn left here. We need to go right here. We need to stop here. We need to refuel. We need to look and see what's going on with the path, and okay, we check engine lights on. We need to stop and make sure that's taken care. It's just kind of like looking out for the path of what's going on and focusing on a lot of those little details. Typically, the integrator is not as great at sales. I don't think I'm amazing at sales. Like I've done fine in sales in the past, but I don't excel like someone like a Pace or someone that's their natural tendency. And visionaries are typically more outgoing extroverts, and integrators are usually more tendency of being an introvert. And I definitely know I'm more of an introvert. I love talking to people and like having like connection one-on-one. That's more of like where I feel like great, is just having those one-on-one deep conversations. Small talk is not my thing. Like I'm just like, I don't know, like what are your goals? I don't know, like I don't know how to talk about like the weather or like this weird stuff like that.
I get awkward at that too.
Yeah. So I feel like that's kind of the difference, introvert versus extrovert. Making sure the little details are happening, and looking out for the path that's going on, and making sure that we're making the right decisions. And so I feel like that's kind of my general understanding and thought process on the difference between the two.
So what would you tell, or what advice would you give somebody who's acting as an integrator in a company?
So acting as an integrator, and I've noticed this from networking with some other integrators, is integrators a lot of times I've found are like really hard on themselves. Like I'm extremely hard on myself to the point where I give myself anxiety, and I have mental issues sometimes where I'm very high strung and anxious, because I'm very like if close of escrow date's coming, like I want everything done. We are closing on that date, we're closing on time. Like I don't like it's like, it's getting pushed back, like that stuff, like it bothers me. Like I like things to be done in a certain way. It's like lead comes in, this happens, like someone like screws up the order, and it like irks me. Like it's trying to make sure that the system is running the way it should be, and recognizing as an integrator, like just all of like the little things that have to be done. So it's kind of the best advice that I could give is trying to, and this is advice that I need to give myself, but being okay to be patient, because I'm really hard on myself, and understanding I'm like, all right, all of these things didn't get done today, but I'm also like, well, I can't, have the whole entire property management side of our business done in a day, and I can't have, the disposition working at the highest level in a day, and, just trying to just understand and have like hold myself accountable, but not beat myself up like crazy when I can't conquer Mount Everest in a day every day. So
right.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges, and I've noticed that with some other integrators, is they're really hard on themselves, and they try to push these things forward. And then also within that integrator visionary relationship, like understanding like where your value is. Like you as an integrator, you have a ton of value. You have like was it Steve Jobs and then Wozniak?
Right.
Where like Steve Jobs is like painting this massive vision, and then Wozniak is doing all this work behind the scenes. Like the visionary is the person that gets the accolade of like, this person's doing all of this, and the integrator is kind of like behind the scenes and, making a lot of things happen. And you just have to understand that that's part of the game. Like you have to just embrace like who you are as a person, and understand there's the visionary isn't adding more or less value, and you aren't adding more or less value, but you have to understand that that's your role, and that's where you're thriving, and you're able to help all of that happen. So I think that's another big part of it, is just recognizing like that you have a lot of value. Because Pace thinks, I don't know, because I don't really go to all the meetups, because I'm an integrator and I'm an introvert, and I don't like, I get it, I don't like going to meetups. I'm like, oh my God, like the meetups that we'll do, I'm like, all right, I'll make it out there and, talk to the people that'll talk to me and, help them. Like, I really like helping people, but again, it's a small talk. Like if someone wants me to help them, like, come ask me a question. Like, don't ask me like, hey, like, how's...
Be transparent. I mean,
yeah.
we were talking about this earlier.
Like, just be straight to the point. Like, I'm very much a straight to the point type of person of just like, this is what I'm trying to do, this is what I'm trying to ask, this is how I feel, and that's it.
Does it work? Can can I be of value to you?
Yes.
If yes, okay, let's keep it going for a little longer. If not, all right, moving on.
Exactly.
No, it makes perfect sense, man. I love it, dude. You have a pretty amazing trajectory, and you're just 25, man. Let me just say that I think you're about 20 years ahead of your time.
That's how I feel. That's why all my friends are older.
And I mean, it's really, really cool and refreshing to see somebody in their 20s crushing it and kicking ass, and then having that level of awareness and that level of responsibility and work ethic that you have, dude. I mean, mad props for it. You are the man. So before we wrap up, if you were walking down the street and ran into your 17-year-old self, what would you tell that kid?
Save your money. No, I mean, that's the first thing that
That was fast.
Like, stupid. Don't buy the Louis Vuitton shoes. You don't need all the pairs of those.
Louis Vuitton toothpicks.
Yeah. So, I would tell myself, I'm like, continue on the path that you're on, but you're not the shit. Mm-hmm. Don't be a jackass. Like, don't let your success get to your head. Mm. Be grateful. Be grateful instead. The success is a reward for your consistent efforts and actions compounded over time. Mm-hmm. But for you to continue that path, you're gonna have to continue to be better. Every level there's gonna be another devil. Every level is gonna require a different level of you. So you have to continue getting better and understand that you're not invincible. Things in the market can happen. Financial things can happen. Things to your health can happen. There's a lot of things that can happen that you just have to be aware of. So those are kind of the things that I would tell myself, and to continue down the path that I was going on, but actually continue developing myself and just stay super humble like that. That's extremely important.
Grounded.
Yeah, stay grounded. You can always be better. There's no, you aren't better than anyone else. I try to keep, like, in the way I am now, and this is what I would tell myself, is like, no one has more or less value than you. Everyone has the same level of value. It's just that people have different talents and different skill sets, and people have practiced different things for longer, so they're better at them. But your value is, as a human, like, you're God's highest form of creation. We all have a lot of value. Obviously you spend time with certain people based on what they're doing, but understand that your value is just as good as somebody else's value, and their value, everyone's valuable. And to, continue being humble through the process, and, help someone else, help other people on the way up.
That's a beautiful message, man, especially coming from somebody who's been through the ringer and has been through, through the whole thing. I love it, man. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, not personally, because you're an integrator, not on a one-to-one.
You won't find me at a
private
meetup.
Conversation. Yeah, it's not going to be a public place. It's going to be a hidden under, I don't know, like
Instagram.
A room in the back, dark, no lights, and don't look at the guy in the eyes. No, before that, I want to say officially that you're the wisest 25-year-old dude that I have ever met.
Seriously, that's awesome. That's amazing, man.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Where do we find you?
Instagram's going to be the best place, CODY BARTON Official, or on Facebook, CODY BARTON. You can find me on there. I'm more active on Instagram, but I have a Facebook too, so those would be the best places to find me. And happy to help however I can, with encouragement, and just hopefully my story can help someone else that may be going through some struggles, and understanding that things can always get better. There's because I know in dark times, like when I was going through that, like, depression, I never thought it would get better. So there's a lot of people that could be going through that, and understanding things could always get better, and they will.
Beautiful. Well, there you guys have it. So you've heard the story, the mindset, and the strategies of Cody Barton, the wisest 25-year-old dude on the face of the earth. This is the CO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. YouTube, and now we are iTunes official. I must say yes.
Let's go.
Yeah, so catch you all on the next one.